Today on Stu's cookery class, I'm going to be showing you how to make tempered chocolate truffles, and it's really so much easier than you'd think. So we're going to take 150 ml of cream and 90 grams of chocolate and just melt those together in the microwave. Now we're going to do this in 20-second bursts, and we're only warming the cream. We're not trying to boil it. We don't want to get it too hot because otherwise it could split. And then once we've got it to a point where it's almost smooth, you'll see a few little bits. It's worth just getting a whisk in there to make sure it's really nice and smooth and glossy, and then leaving this to set. Ideally overnight, or you could try and cool it down quicker. If you spread it out in a tray in the fridge, it might only take an hour. I'm now chopping down 100 grams of dark chocolate. Now you could grate this if you preferred, but it needs to be broken down into smaller pieces, as this just helps stop you from burning the chocolate when you're trying to melt it. I've then chopped up another 50 grams of chocolate and kept that to one side, and I'm now going to melt my 100 grams of chocolate in 20-second bursts on full power in the microwave, but just giving it a really thorough stir in between and making sure that it's not getting hot, that it's just sort of just above body temperature, nice and warm. Now I've edited out loads of time of me stirring this, taking the time to just slowly melt it, and you'll find as it gets to this point where it's almost melted, you'll just want to do 10-second bursts. You really don't want to put any more heat in there than you need to. Now once you've got it really nice and smooth like I have here, we're going to add in that 50 grams of chocolate, and the reason we do this is it preserves the temper of the chocolate. It means that when it sets you'll get that lovely snap and that crack and a lovely shine to it as well. Now once that's been added, you'll need to give it another couple of 10-second bursts in the microwave just to finish it off and get it all melted together. And once you've done that, we're ready to start actually making the truffles. So first thing I'm going to do is actually cling film my side, and this just keeps things tidy, nice and neat, and it also means you can save any of the chocolate that comes out of the mould. Now I'm filling up every little bit of this silicone mould here. If you have a proper chocolate mould, they're actually usually hard plastic, and they give you a better temper on the chocolate. They'll actually stay shinier for longer on the outside, but they are also much harder to remove from their moulds. So the best way for if you're just starting out is to use a silicone mould and just leave it in the mould until you want to eat it or gift it. Now you'll see here that I've filled the moulds entirely, they're completely full, and what I'm going to do now is actually tip out all of this chocolate, but not quite all, but we're just going to leave a thin coating behind on the outside to form the shell. Now you'll need to flip it over fairly confidently, but not too violently, so you don't splatter everywhere. Now you'll see here lots of that chocolate's come out, but I'm going to need to keep it upside down, give it a bit of a wiggle and an angle, and loads more is going to drip out there. Once we've done that, I'm going to scrape off the excess off the top, let a little more dribble out, and then it'll be ready to go in the fridge. Now I did actually miss a step here. When my mould was full of chocolate, I should have tapped it down because I ended up with a few little air bubbles. It's no big problem, but it just meant that I didn't have a perfectly smooth surface on the top of my chocolates, and you'll see that at the end. I'm now going to turn this out onto a tray or plate that's been cling filmed or grease proofed, and this is just to stop it from sticking and from you breaking those chocolate shells that are in there. We're then going to leave that in the fridge for about 30 minutes so that it can set up nicely. I'm now going to fill a piping bag with our ganache mix, that cream and chocolate mix that should have set up nicely, and it'll be sort of semi-solid. And you'll see here as well now that my moulds, the chocolate's actually dripped down the side, and it's caused there to be a bit of a bottom on those chocolates already. Now they're not solid at all, they're actually still quite a nice shell, but I'm going to redo this and show you how they should sort of turn out. But if they do turn out like this, it's absolutely fine. You can still fill them, still cover the bottom in chocolate in exactly the same way as I'm going to show you. But this is how they should have turned out, with a little bit of a foot round the outside, and I'm just going to pipe in my filling, leaving about 1 ml to put some chocolate on top to seal them up. Doesn't matter if you put a little bit too much in, you can always take a little bit out. We're going to smooth them over as well before we add our chocolate on top. Now, to make the bottoms, I'm actually not going to temper my chocolate. I don't think it's quite worth the effort. I'm just going to remelt the spare chocolate we had before, the stuff that had turned out onto the cling film. And I'm just going to gently pour that over the top of each individual chocolate, nice and carefully. Once you've done that, if you don't quite have enough, you can just gently spread it around on top so you've got a nice smooth surface all over, and you'll see me do that in just one moment. Now I'm taking my sort of kinked palette knife. I'm being really careful and gentle. I'm just pressing the chocolate down into the moulds, making sure that they're all completely covered. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape all the excess off. If you don't have a palette knife like this, you could just use a completely straight one. That works just as well. You'll see here I'm just scraping off all the excess, and this chocolate could be saved to cook with or to use for chocolates again. If you do find that you create any tiny little holes, you can just use your palette knife, just spread the chocolate gently around, and you'll see me need to do this in a second as well. You'll see just two little holes appear, and I'll use that palette knife to just pull the chocolate across. Once that's been in the fridge for another half an hour, your chocolate should be ready to come out. Now you just want to gently press the silicone mould and lift them out, and this should come out really nice and easily. There's lots of ways you could do these differently. I've used dark chocolate because it's actually the easiest to work with, it's the most forgiving, but you can do it with milk or white chocolate, or you could even try doing a different filling, something like hazelnut and caramel, or just flavouring the chocolate ganache you put in there with either a little orange, maybe just a single whole hazelnut. You could do absolutely whatever you wanted. If you like this video, hit that button, and if you really liked it, if you found it interesting or helpful, consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my future videos. Thanks for watching.